To an American, everyday life in Mexico could look like total chaos, but it's not. It's actually running on a highly organized and visible system of unwritten rules. And if you try to use your American habits down here, Mexico is going to chew you up and spit you out. To make sure that doesn't happen to you, I have 10 things that Mexico does differently that completely confuse Americans. Number one is paying for your parking spot on the street to some random dude with a towel. Now, in a lot of more busy areas, there are these guys with towels standing in the streets that basically run the parking spots on the street. And it's completely different than the USA because the USA, you might have to pay a parking meter. But in a lot of places here where there aren't parking meters, you have to pay these guys. You don't have to, but your car is safer that way. And really, it's like 10, 20 pesos. It's really nothing. And most of the time, they'll stay there and they'll watch your car for you. I've had a few guys kind of disappear. My wife would make sure, she would ask them a lot to say, hey, are you guys going to stay here the whole time? And they would say yes. And all of a sudden we come back and they disappear. But if you don't pay them, you might have more problems. I don't know if they'll damage your car or something, but it's just better off giving them a few pesos just to make them happy. And they're really trying to hustle to make money, right? This type of thing happens in a lot of places in Mexico. And what these guys do is they usually will block off their spots with rocks or buckets. Now that brings me into number two, which is saving your parking space with a bucket or a rock. So the other day, we were going to the pediatrician for my son, and someone had a bunch of rocks on the street where you could park on the side in front of the house, but they were blocking those spots. Sometimes it's buckets, sometimes it's rocks, sometimes it's other things. But people claim spots or save spots with buckets or rocks here. And in the USA, that wouldn't fly. And I'm from Canada and that wouldn't even fly there. If I saw someone trying to save a spot with a bucket, I would just move it and park there anyways. But here, everyone respects this. Well, most people do. It's just that unwritten rule. You can't really claim a spot that's not yours. If it's not in front of your house, let's say it's down the street and you're claiming a spot in front of someone else's house, it's kind of weird and kind of off. If you're not one of those parking guys and you're claiming spots for customers to come park, it's kind of weird. People will start asking questions. But a lot of times, no one will touch or move the buckets or rocks if they see them there. Number three is putting toilet paper into trash bins in public. Now, I've seen this one in other countries before. So before coming, the first time I came to Mexico, I was used to it. I knew what it was for. But you're not supposed to put your toilet paper into the toilets after you use it. You put it in the trash bin beside the toilet. It's kind of weird to some people, but you get used to it. And it's really so you don't clog the system. And a lot of public restrooms have people taking care of these places. And they do a really good job. Like Mexico has some of the nicest public washrooms, the cleanest public washrooms, in my opinion. I haven't really been to one that I was disgusted by, to be honest. But I think it's so people don't clog the system, don't clog the toilet, because they don't want to clean up your mess. So just use the trash bin. Number four, parties will go on all night long and they'll be loud. Mexicans love to party. And when they do, they throw a big party. I've been here in Mexico City for over 2 years now, and there's been a ton of parties at night where they're just partying and the music's loud in my neighborhood. And it happens everywhere. Like the music's pumping and it's just blasting through the neighborhood, and it will go on till 4 or 5 in the morning sometimes. And I hear that there is a rule to not being loud after a certain time, but no one really follows that. And the police won't enforce it. I went to a party recently, and it was a birthday party, and they had the party outside. They hired a guy to come in and do karaoke. So everyone was singing. I mean, some people were great and some weren't, but it was a loud party. And that party went on till 1 a.m. But you know what? That party was on a Wednesday night. But what I do to make it better, I sleep with a sound machine anyways, and a lot of times with an air conditioning. So my room sounds like a factory. So I don't hear anything going on outside. But for those of you who need quiet, some nights you're going to hear it all night long. And that's just how it is here. Number 5, dogs are left outside all day. Now, this is part of the sound thing because there's a lot of dogs that are left outside while people are at work. And even when they're not at work on weekends, they'll be left outside. Some of them just live out in the outside of the compound of the house. And a lot of times there's no grass. So these dogs sit in basically a cement prison. And I'm not judging anyone for it. I just feel bad for the dogs sometimes. And those dogs will bark. There's a lot of dogs that have anxiety, I've noticed, and they will bark. And it's kind of like the loud music. A lot of people don't seem like they care that their dogs bark. So just be prepared for that. I have a dog in my neighborhood that barks all day and all evening. But that's something that people from the US, you might not be used to. And honestly, I feel bad for some of the dogs. But I do want to say, on the other hand, there's a lot more people that care for their dogs, I find. A lot of people that don't leave their dogs outside. A lot of people that treat their dogs more like family than like a guard dog. Because I think that's what some people think their dogs are. Number 6, seeing begging people at the grocery store. Now, this is not completely odd or different, but I think begging people in the US for the most part has been phased out. Now, the point to this wasn't that the bagging people is a different idea, though. You usually should tip the people that bag your groceries because they're considered volunteers and they don't get a wage from the grocery store. They're either seniors looking for some extra money, or I haven't seen this yet, but I heard that it could be like teenagers too. Now, in 2025 last year, apparently Mexico has changed the rules where they're going to have to pay these people proper wages, at least minimum wage. But I don't think it's implemented yet. And it's always nice to give them, 10, 20 pesos just to be nice, even if they are getting a wage. Because if they do get a wage, it's going to be minimum wage. I don't know what it is, but it's not very high in Mexico. Number 7 is that everybody leaves their shoes on in the house. So when you go over to someone's house in Mexico, or they come to yours, they'll leave their shoes on when they come in the house. Now in the US and in Canada, because like I said, I'm from Canada, it depends on the house you're going to. Some people leave their shoes on and some people don't. Like in my house, I take my shoes off. But here, if visitors are coming, I'll let them keep their shoes on. And sometimes I wear my shoes in the house here because it's just, I don't know, I'm kind of just going with the flow. So when you go over to someone's house or they come to your house, don't expect to take your shoes off or don't expect them to take their shoes off. It's just a normal thing here. Number 8, if you wear shorts outside, if it's not at the beach, then you look like a foreigner. Now, this is a one that I've seen in like places like Thailand, where if you wear shorts outside, you stick out like a sore thumb and you look like a foreigner. People know right away that you're a foreigner, even in the hot weather. And trust me, I'm wearing shorts. I don't care if people think I'm a foreigner, see I'm a foreigner. I think they pretty much know I am anyways. And a lot more people are starting to wear shorts outside, I've noticed. Not everybody, but there's a few people that will wear shorts, I guess, depending on what they're doing. I think shorts are left for like kids. And like I said, when you're at the beach. Number 9, putting your bag or your purse on the floor is bad luck. Now, when you go to a lot of restaurants here, they'll have bag hooks for you. Just put your bags on the hooks because it's bad luck to put your bag on the floor, basically. This is a simple rule. And it makes sense. You put your bag on the floor and maybe someone could trip on it or something like that. That's probably where the superstition came from. But like I said, a lot of times there's like bag hooks, bag trees that they'll bring to your table in not higher end restaurants, but like mid-range to higher end restaurants. Like the cheaper restaurants, sometimes they don't have them. So just put your bag on a chair. Number 10, all gas stations are full service. Now this is not completely weird or different, but for some of us, we're used to pumping gas for ourselves. Like when I was younger, there was like a half and half. Like half of the gas stations were full service and half of the gas stations were self-service. But here in Mexico, you don't ever touch the pump. Like my wife didn't even know. I had to show her in Canada how to pump gas because she didn't actually know how to do it. So if you do drive, be prepared not to pump your own gas. It's actually kind of nice. And make sure you give the gentleman or the lady pumping your gas a good tip, a decent tip. And they'll also clean your windows and do other things for you if you ask. And here's a bonus one, is that if you do drive here, just remember that It's a different mentality. It's every man for themselves here. In the US and Canada, a lot of people are more defensive drivers. Here is an offensive driving style. Everybody does offensive style. It's every man for themselves, like I said. So if you're going to drive here, just know that. And if you know that, make sure you get into that mentality, understand that you need to also, like when in Rome, act like the Romans, right? Make sure that you are not causing accidents because you're driving in a style where people here are not used to. And they're not driving wrong. A lot of people in the world, a lot of countries in the world have a more offensive style of driving. You just need to mentally get yourself into that space and flow along with them in traffic, or else you're going to cause a lot of accidents. And if you're not confident enough, please don't drive here. Now, those are my main 10 tips. Well, 11 tips. And if I've missed any, just let me know in the comments. I would love to hear other tips from you out there if you have been to Mexico before. And if you stuck around this long, I'm sure you liked this video. And I have more just like this video right here. This is 8 stereotypes about Mexicans that Americans still believe that are wrong. Click it, go watch it, check it out. I'll see you there. And thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate it.